Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Unlocking the Paradigm Portal. I'm Sarah, and today we're going to be taking a look at the concept of stillness. How many people just cringed a little bit? So, I've been thinking about what has been coming up in conversations, and honestly, that's my direction every time I record, is just looking back on the repetitive themes that come up when I'm chatting with people or working with people. And I'm finding more and more, and this is so not shocking, it is really, really hard for most people to allow themselves to just be still, to just be quiet, have no distractions, and sit with yourself and see what that's even like. So, I'm going to challenge you today to give it a shot. So, my first question is, when was the last time that you sat in total stillness? No phone, no background noise. I know I often have the TV running just to fill up space. No book in your hand, no laptop out, no to-do list, just nothing. And just be there. You can stare at a wall, you can meditate, you can, I don't know, just lay down and breathe, but just be with yourself. When was the last time? Seriously. So now my follow-up question is, how does that feel physically? Just even thinking about stopping and being with yourself. I want you to take a minute and notice what that feels like. What does it feel like in your body? And for those who don't know me, this is the work that I do. I am a massage therapist, a craniosacral practitioner. I work with nervous system regulation. I do somatic breath work. All of it is learning to be with your body and recognize the signs and the symptoms and the messages that it's trying to send to you, that we are so trained, basically, to disregard or ignore. And that is where all of the wisdom is. So if I say, take 10 minutes, when we're all done here, take 10 minutes, go somewhere quiet. If you're in a house with other people, tell them to not bother you for the next 10 minutes. Put on noise canceling headphones, whatever you need to do, and just sit in silence. How does that feel? How does your body respond? You might feel your breath catch. You might notice your shoulders tense up. You might get a feeling of anxiety and panic, like you want to bolt out the door. You might be flipping me the middle finger right now. That's all possible. And these are all things to notice, because when you have those physical symptoms of stress at the thought of just being with yourself, that is a huge indicator that there's something that you are avoiding, either within yourself, within your situation, whatever it is. And I don't mean that it is some massive, tower moment that's about to happen. For those who don't know, the tower in tarot is like everything collapses. So just notice that. And what is there that you're avoiding? And if you're not sure, or if you're insistent that you are not avoiding anything, I want you to take a look at your schedule. Is it completely packed full? Do you allow yourself some downtime, or do you find that you have to, or feel you have to, complete XYZ before you've earned the downtime? Like, if you have a day where you just rest, do you call it a lazy day? I know I used to do that. I got called out on that a long time ago. It's not a lazy day, it's a self-care day. Do you find that in order for you to just stop, you have to be unbelievably sick, or you have to drive your body into the ground until you, like, let's say, have surgery that requires you to stop moving, and you look forward to that? Do you daydream about, God, I just wish that I could go on like a retreat somewhere? You hear about people that just get to take a step away from the world and go into like a retreat setting or something like that. That sounds like a fantasy. I know many people that have said to me in the past, and they said it with a lot of difficult emotion coming up, that they just actually looked forward to something happening and they're in the hospital and they don't have to do all the things. So if you've had any of these situations or thoughts come up and you don't have to admit to them, besides to yourself, that's a sign that you're struggling to run from something uncomfortable internally. And it could be down to just being so acclimated with cultural conditioning, which is exactly what our society says is the busiest people are the most worthy. They are productive, they are, having the most output, and that means that they are worthy and they are valuable and they are somehow important because of that. We also seem to, I don't know, like, is there a trophy that's handed out for being the person who does all the things? Because I certainly haven't seen it. And I realized for me personally in the past, I did my darndest, and I'm trying very hard not to swear. I did my darndest to be super mom, super woman, do all the things, take care of everybody. And you know what it got me? It got me a ruptured disc in my back that landed me in surgery, having to have this spine surgery that took forever to recover from. That sucked really, really badly because I wasn't paying attention to how much stress I was taking on and the toll it was taking on me physically. So, some other reasons that we get running and packing our schedules is like with that, like I was talking about, the fear of what might come up with your thoughts. It's a coping mechanism to avoid really taking a deep look at whatever is creating anxiety, whatever is bringing you stress, whatever is unnecessary burden that you're taking on, whatever is unearned responsibility that you are adopting as yours. And I say this as someone who recently felt this mental collapse and physical collapse because I realized how much extra burden I was taking on for everyone else that I didn't need to. I have people around and I had to recognize it, pause, and then delegate. And I got to say, it feels like 8,000 pounds came off of me. So, what are you running from? What worries do you have? Are they real worries or are they like mental doom scrolling of the things that could go wrong? So, with that also is your nervous system. When you are going and going and going, your nervous system is on and firing at all times. And you are most likely living in a state of fight or flight mode, which is unbelievably taxing for your entire body. And it will cause you to crash and burn out. Maybe not today, maybe not in a year, but at some point it will if you don't recognize it and start learning some practices of self-care and allowing yourself to, because self-care is not selfish. I'm going to repeat that for the people that are really struggling to believe that. Self-care is not selfish. We have all heard the phrase about you can't, fill someone else's cup unless yours is full too. It sounds cheesy, but it really is true. So if your nervous system is going all the time, I invite you to look and see, where is that coming from? Are you acclimated to the feeling of chaos? Not that you like chaos, but you're used to the feeling of it. It's familiar. It's kind of your uncomfortable comfort zone. So for a lot of people that is their comfort zone. And again, reformed chaos lover over here, the thought and the feeling of stillness feels scary because it feels like, oh crap, what am I missing? What's going to come next? Like you're in hypervigilant mode, waiting to see what's coming around the corner. So oftentimes, if you are acclimated to chaos and then there isn't chaos, it might feel good for a little bit, but then that fight or flight kicks in, and then you end up inadvertently and unintentionally bringing chaos back into it. It's like sucking the storm back into the calm instead of the other way around. So that, if that's what you find happening in your life, that is an indicator that you definitely have an overactive nervous system. So what will happen if you just keep doing this? You're going to burn out. You're going to have total loss of self-awareness. You are distracted from really beautiful things that a lot of people don't put enough value on, like creativity and, I don't know, listening to your intuition, understanding that you have needs. learning what they are, and then allowing yourself to seek them out. You will just be at the mercy of everyone else. If you are a people pleaser, there is nothing wrong with that. That is a survival strategy. So anyone who criticizes someone for being a people pleaser, they need to zip it, because it is an incredibly brilliant strategy that your subconscious has created to try to find ways to keep you safe in your environment. It's just outdated. Like, your operating system is operating on like Windows XP, and it needs to be updated. So, the other thing that I've heard from people in the last couple of weeks is the phrase, well, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, someday I'll find the time. I have a very unfortunate news flash for you. You will never find the time. You have to make the time. You have to make the conscious effort to slow down and create space. And you do that by looking at all the things that are filling up your time. And it might not always just be activities or meetings or, gatherings or obligations or whatever. It might be giving yourself like a clear headspace time, giving yourself to start even like 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, where you're going to focus on not mentally doom scrolling. You're going to put the phone down, get off of Instagram, stop, or TikTok, or whatever people scroll through these days. Get off of that for just 2 minutes. That's just the starting point. And let your mind be quiet. Because once you start to retrain yourself to seek out that quiet and that peaceful, when you go back into the chaos, it feels so much more uncomfortable that you start to see where it pops up in your life. And then you're going to want to move away from that. Or if it's something that you can make peace with, then you can do that, and then you don't end up taking it on. So I pulled a bunch of cards about this. And the ones that came up first were, one of them was nostalgia. And that is, we all know what nostalgia is, but a lot of times we keep ourselves running on, again, that old operating system of thinking about the past, ruminating about the past, missing the past, wanting to go back to the past. And it just keeps you in this repetitive backwards loop. So often, if you're struggling with that nostalgia and getting lost in memories, and especially what often happens with memories and nostalgia is romanticizing and putting on rose-colored glasses. And then we see things differently. And then you end up running and running to try to avoid the past instead of coming to peace with it, closing out that chapter. That all happened. That was an experience. That was a person, whatever it is. That chapter ended for a reason. And then it's time to start moving into something new. And this ties back into that letting go conversation that I did the other day, because then there's the fear of, well, what's coming? Well, what's coming is going to be better. So do you find yourself getting caught up in nostalgia and then keeping yourself super busy to avoid dealing with it? And with that, you might find yourself getting stuck in like regret or resentment or hostilities or anything about the past. And then again, trying to avoid it. So another big part is, the next card is inner child healing. And for those of you who don't know much about that, I will talk more about that extensively in the future. We have coping mechanisms that we develop as survival strategies when we're children or when we have any kind of traumatic event. And just as a heads up, I know everyone loves to throw the T word around. Trauma, and I remember hearing this quote from Gabor Mate, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he said, trauma is the things that happened to you that shouldn't have, and the things that didn't happen that should have. So it can be things like emotional neglect, growing up in an emotionally absent household, actual like abuse is, I don't know if I can say that. I don't know if I can say that. Sorry, YouTube, if I can't say that. I hope you don't censor it. But all of these learned behaviors of avoidance, that is a very common reason that we stay busy and busy and busy, is to just stay in coping mechanisms of avoiding painful situations, painful thoughts, painful emotions. And for some people, all emotions are painful. So another card that came up is external situations, friends, family, work, other people, obligations. You know what that is? That is focusing externally instead of allowing yourself to recognize what's going on internally. Super classic avoidance pattern for your feelings, and sitting with them and acknowledging them as valid and real and challenging and having to figure out what to do with them. So we shove them down. That also, by the way, will come up in your body. When the uncomfortable feelings come up, your shoulders will hike up, your neck will crunch back, your chest feels really tight. So the next card that came up is Unexpected Storm. And this, I view this as the concern about if you stop, then the storm will catch up to you. But you don't realize you're already in the storm. You literally have put yourself in the center of it and are spinning in the cyclone. So with stopping, yes, there might be a little bit of conflict. Situations might fall apart. Changes may happen. You might have some sudden awarenesses that shake up your current existence. And that's really difficult. And it's very challenging. And most people keep themselves from being still to avoid that. But again, it's always going to catch up with you somehow, some way. So I have another deck that I absolutely love. And if you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I am grinning because I can't even express how much I love this deck. And it's called the Mystical Shaman Oracle. I have the pocket version because I have small hands, and I had the full size cards and they're huge. But this deck, I'm very drawn to shamanism. And there's a shadow work program that I'm creating that is called Into the Fire. And I just have always, I remember saying to someone, I feel like I'm drawn to shamanism. Am I a shaman? I picture an old man on a mountaintop, but that's definitely not me. And then she said, a shaman is someone who walks people through the fire. So this deck is just, it makes me so happy. And the cards are beautiful and the meanings are beautiful. And it's just got such depth to it. So I totally recommend it. So the cards that came out for that one were the Wild Woman. And honestly, she looks pretty fierce. And the messages with that one, they all the ones that came out were just perfect. And the messages on it were to be still, to find your light. And your light is, who are you? What is the unique way that you show up in the world? And have you allowed yourself the opportunity to sit in that quiet, to figure that out? And if you didn't get the memo, who you used to be isn't necessarily who you are now. We are constantly evolving, constantly changing. And I invite you to be curious about it. And it can feel scary because you might be letting go of old parts of yourself. But again, going back to that computer operating system, you're upgrading constantly. So just be curious. Who are you now? What do you like now? And in that stillness, you get such brilliant insights. Why? Because in the quiet, your intuition is so much more evident. You can feel it, you can hear it because it's not distracted by all the noise, or rather, you are not distracted by all the noise. So, that card also talks about your authentic self that doesn't fit into a box and that you need quiet in order to emerge. And that if you are doing things in excess, whatever it may be, that is a sign of imbalance. And that is a sign that you, for your best and highest self and path and purpose, need to find ways to simplify. And it might not be something that you can do immediately, but just to even start recognizing that there is a need for simplification, which, let's face it, we all have a need for simplification. It can be something as simple as take one cabinet in your house, empty everything out of it, and toss whatever you haven't looked at, touched, or used in the last year. Just get rid of it and see how you feel after that. I've done that actually with my entire kitchen, and it is unbelievable how light I feel as a result of it. So give that a shot. So the next card that came up is the Serpent. And this serpent is all about Kundalini energy, which I'll do a whole other video on that. But the image is obviously of a snake. And this one is knowing how to reconnect with your body, or learning how to reconnect with your body and your energy to leave behind what you've outgrown, like a snake shedding its skin. And this goes along with, who are you now? Who is your authentic self? And leave behind the old ways that don't really work for you anymore. And fun fact, you don't need a reason for leaving behind what doesn't work for you anymore. It's as simple as saying, no, that doesn't feel right. And that's okay. Or no, that makes me uncomfortable. That's okay. You don't have to justify or validate to anybody. So, what have you outgrown? And you will find that in that stillness. So the next card that came out is the Sweat Lodge. I have always wanted to do a sweat lodge, and I try to use this infrared sauna at my office whenever I can. And I turn off all the lights in the room, and it's really, really warm. And I just sit in the darkness. And I swear, I think I could solve the world's problems in those moments, because everything that feels scattered and disjointed and confused suddenly comes together. It is absolutely brilliant. And it's toasty warm as it's getting cold. So the Sweat Lodge is all about that journey inward into yourself, into the dark places that you haven't looked at or that you've avoided looking at, so that you can reconnect with yourself. And I'll tell you, when you do that, as much as you may feel afraid of what you find, you're going to find some really, really, really beautiful nuggets of insight about yourself that you never knew existed. And that'll help you just start to move forward. The more that you can find yourself, the more that you won't need to keep running. So the last card that came up is the giveaway. And I love this one as the final card because it's all about gratitude. And I know everybody talks about gratitude, and I know a lot of people who get very grumbly about it. And it's not about, I am grateful that I have books and I am grateful that I have my home. Like, yes, obviously express gratitude for that and be appreciative of all the beautiful things that you have and that you've worked hard for and that keep you feeling comfortable and safe and protected and loved and everything. But it's also about recognizing the beauty of the life all around you. And the busier you are, you overlook little things. You miss things like, and this might sound corny, but you might not notice the little baby deer standing on the side of the road, hopefully not about to get hit. Or there was one night I was sitting outside and it was summertime and it was late and it was quiet and I just needed some quiet. And I'm sitting on my back steps in the pitch black. And at like 11 at night, I heard this very distinct cawing, which you don't usually hear birds at night. And so I pulled out, there's an app that I have from Cornell, is it Cornell University, Cornell College, whichever one it is. And it's a bird identifier app because apparently middle age is when you start like getting all into identifying birds. And it was a red-tailed hawk that was just screeching in the middle of the night. And those are symbolic of seeing things from a higher perspective. And it was so cool because I allowed myself to not have my phone out, not be doing anything, just to sit there. And I got to hear that. And it was amazing. And I still grin just thinking about it. And I've saved that recording in that app. So when you allow yourself to just be still and quiet, you start noticing things that you didn't really recognize before. You might, you might be in one room being quiet and you hear your kids giggling and playing together in a rare moment that they're getting along. And that might have you feeling a little bit lighter because often it might feel like it's just heavy and, kids are fighting and there's activities to go to, but just recognizing those little moments and allowing yourself to stop and be in that moment. That is the practice of presence. And that's what life's all about. Just noticing those little things instead of distracting yourself from seeing them. So the challenge that comes with that gratitude and the presence and the slowing down is setting limits with yourself. We often talk about boundaries. Well, I've only been doing this a little bit now, but I talk with people regularly about boundaries and setting healthy boundaries with people and how it shows them how they're allowed to treat you and love you and everything. But it's a lot more difficult to set boundaries with yourself, especially when you've made it a practice of neglecting yourself and your sense of inner peace for others. And it doesn't have to be big steps. You can do baby steps. And actually, in my coaching practice, we call it exposure reprogramming, just making little baby steps toward these shifts. Say no once in a while. If you still feel the need to add an explanation, that's okay. You're working toward a total no. Start recognizing where you're overextending yourself. Start recognizing where you let things slide that really you need to be firm on. And by the way, firm does not mean you're being a jerk. It just means you're drawing the line in the sand gently and lovingly and saying, this is a no. That's not okay anymore. And that is a beautiful way to honor yourself. But it's hard to recognize where those boundaries need to be placed if you're not allowing yourself that quiet and that solitude and that stillness in order to recognize what your soul is calling out for, what peace your mind needs, what your body is feeling. And the most beautiful gifts come out of allowing yourself to have that. Be generous with yourself because I guarantee you are probably generous with everybody around. So, with that, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to challenge you for today. Take a minute and just notice, what is your body saying it needs right now? Are you tired? The dishes will be there tomorrow. Leave them in the sink. Even if it bothers you, or, see if somebody else will do them, or hustle through, get it done, but go to bed early and let yourself do something that feels gentle and soft. Maybe if you're a water person, take a long shower and then climb into bed. Turn off the TV and read a book, or find a breathing app and just breathe. Or, you don't even need an app. Just fold your hands one on top of the other over your upper chest and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and just recognize, what am I thinking right now? And if you're able to go beyond that, what am I feeling right now? And does it feel tight? Does it feel constricted? Does it feel hard to breathe? Do you feel emotion coming up and kind of choking at your throat like you want to cry? Do you feel exhausted? Do you feel like you need to let out a really big sigh? Whatever it is. Sometimes I've had people say, I don't feel anything. And that is a big indicator that you have become very disconnected from your body. So I'm going to do future videos or audios about that, because that is my passion, is helping people and myself come back to recognizing the messages your body's trying to tell you. So I'll probably do one on breathing sometime this week. And if you have any suggestions of topics you'd like me to explore, feel free to leave a comment. And I didn't say this last time because I was completely winging it with no script and no idea what I was going to talk about. So subscribe, like, share, do all the things. I'm not experienced as a YouTuber, so I don't have the whole script down, but, pass this on. It's time that we stop just living in kind of a monotonous, blindfold on, living on the surface, running through the motions way. Let's start living authentically and with intention. So until next time, have a wonderful evening, get some rest, practice some self-care, and I'll come up with something cool for the next one. Thank you.